Perfect.
Can you reread the
So,
questions so we can
so
start?
the question is whether if there is a business zones, we can qualify it as a strong business zone or not. So when you have business zones, I will just take some, let me just take an example.
You can use the same example that Barry sent. Can you open that or comment on that one?
Yeah, it's loading. I'm not able to see the picture yet.
In case I can share my screen and show it to you. Okay, this is the example he sent.
To qualify strong business zones, we need the profile. So a
Okay.
screenshot of market profile, volume profile would be perfect. I mean, you can still let it open, but the best way to have feedback on zones and the general context is always with the profiles. I think it's the most easiest to see. And also if you have just charts that only show that.
Mhm. This is the micro SMP. So I have my ES open. Maybe we can go straight into that. Can you tell us, Barry, which session is this? Like, when is this screenshot taken from?
I can also try to share my trading view.
Yeah, sure.
So
Yes, yesterday at 10 a.m. on the ES.
yesterday, 10 a.m. on the ES. So by the way, I just realized that there was an update on TradingView, and I think it's very nice because as I showed in the previous session, you can just use market profile, volume profile, and adapt them to the underlying product or asset. But for now, they made an update because usually there was a bug when you set here the settings to just the cash session, which is nur die Hauptsitzung in German, it's just the cash session, it still would take the 24-hour profile, and that's wrong. So that's why you always needed to do a custom. But there was an update here on the upside. You can see that you can choose between candlesticks, line, candlesticks that are adapted with or differently shown in the size adapted to volume, but then you can also choose TPO and session volume. So as you can see in this chart here on the top right, where I mainly have, or I prefer the daily profiles, down here the weekly profiles, I can see I've switched to that time. And in this chart, you can also choose the cash session and what's the size of the TPOs. So that way you can just choose like the regular trading hours, and then when you change the asset, it automatically adapts to the underlying asset. From what I've tested with ES, CL, so oil, it's running. I still need to test if it's running or working for every product, but that way you only have the cash profiles and you don't need to adapt it individually to the underlying. So just for the people who are using TradingView, it's just something I realized, and I think that's TradingView is improving. So, but let's get back to the session of it was yesterday, right?
Yes, yesterday at 10 a.m.
Yesterday
It's
at
a
10
1 minute. It
a.m.
was a 1 minute chart.
So pretty small. Yesterday,
I
10
think that
a.m.
it's the low of the day, probably the low of the session.
Some more
Yeah.
here.
I think it's this part.
But then it's, I mean, 10 a.m. is depending on the zone. So what
Yeah,
time
I
zone he's
guess.
living in. So
Yeah, I think
time
it's
difficulty.
it can.
But yeah, I think from the screenshot, what I saw or remember it was over there. So when we
Yeah, 10
just
a.m.
first,
New York time. Barry says.
yeah, so it was down there. So to the difference between, there's a perfect example of yesterday. The difference between a strong business zone and a weak business zone is kind of when you just compare those two profiles. So you have those different profiles and you try to create a business zone. When you create a business zone with that value area high, and you can either go above or to that high volume area over there, because my preferred way always is to have a wider value area. So I don't like it, but it's personal preference to draw business zones inside the value area. So this is the value area. I don't prefer it, although in this case, I would most likely go to the low volume area here inside, although it's not the preferred version, to draw the business zone like that. And I have templates. So 1, 2, 1 is for weekly, 2 is for monthly, and I will just choose the template and display them on all different charts and just extend it. But for me, in this case, I have a clear rule or a clear sign where I can draw my business zone to. So either I draw it to this low volume area and the single print you can see here in purple, or I extend it to the upside, but then I will place it behind this high volume area behind the mountain peak. Otherwise, the business zone on the low side, just copy paste, go to the downside, and that way just extend it to the bottom. It's kind of small business zone, but then I would extend it because this business zone, as you can see, there's the low volume area, in this case starting, but I would extend it to a technical support resistance in this case. So we have the value area low, and then extend it to the technical support because there's no other interesting area to pull it to. So business zones created, but in this case, the business zone, I would prefer that one. So we take my preferred option. It is for me, or in the definition or experience, it is a strong business zones because we have a clear second reference point except the value area. When we have a value area like this, that is kind of in between, let me take, and that is kind of in between, like we have a mountain here that is kind of a fair value distribution. So it's like a D shape. We can also define it to the principles. We have two D shapes, so kind of double distribution. We have a single print in between. And now we have a value area that is in the middle of a mountain that does not have a clear peak. It's more, yeah, like a D shape or D profile. So in this case, when I try to draw a business zone, it's very difficult. We have the close above, so we cannot merge those profiles. Of course, sometimes it's perfect because if the close would be inside this value area, we could merge those profiles, but it is not the case. So what do we do? In this case, we create kind of a weak business zone, and that's, I think, also the answer to a question of when there is a strong or weak business zone. Try to pull up also the question in the Discord. So this will, when we create a business zone for the day-to-day, it is kind of a weak one because as I already said, like to extend the value area to the outside. So on the lower value area to the downside and on the value area high to the upside. In this case, I would hide it behind this mountain. And then we have the business zone for today. Again, share it to or sync it to all charts. Extend it until end of day, copy, paste, create a value area high. But this, as well as this one, are weaker business zones. The upper one is kind of okay, but I also don't like it when there's a business zone or a value area extreme on the extreme of the profile. There are weaker business zones. The stronger business zones are the ones where you connect directly with a low volume area, a clear high volume area or peak, a POC, or a naked single print value area or POC from the past. So let me check, because that is not the preferred version, the way I just explained it in this chart, because you can see all in one. I prefer to draw my business zones in here. So we can reduce the TPO size, because that way we have more data and we have more details. So I'm just kind of loading some time. So we take a value area high. We have kind of a clean P shape. We have naked value area low over there. We draw to here because volume's falling, and also we have a market profile. I don't know, edge. Let's call it edge. We have a profile of yesterday. Still have a naked value area low. There is kind of the edge of course, we can extend it to there, but the business zone would be too big. And on the value area, we extend it to a technical point of view. I'm still trying to test the update function of TradingView. So in that way, you differentiate the strong and the weak zones. So when you have a zone that is just in a high volume area, so when you create a zone like in here, this business zone is weaker than if you have a business zone that is created on an edge of a profile like this one. And is that clear? Let me try to open the chat. Zoom. Chat.
Okay, I think we can. Yeah.
So let us stick with that question. Or two business zones. When I draw a business zone, I need to draw it only for the day or week before. Yes. I mean, you can, or I prefer to, as long as it is the same contract, as long as there is no rollover, I prefer to don't delete the business zones because there are still interesting areas. So if we go down there, so let's say the market continues, or even today, let's say we have a strong sell-off. This area is still an interesting area because it is a naked value area from the past, and that's why and I don't delete it. As soon as there is a rollover, I delete the old zones because that way the pricing or the yeah, because the chart is adapted backwards and then the area is not that interesting anymore. So, but the business zone relevance is always from the previous day. So there was a question, there was a why we started talking about business zones about this spike over here, right? So what was the question? It was about the strength of a business zone. So when you just want to trade business zones with limits, which we tested, and you can trade this especially on the assets working. So you just create business zones and you enter one tick before, you put your stop loss one tick below, and then you trade to the other business zone that's on the other side, either through the balance or when you have a breakout, or in this example, you don't have a value area on the other side or a business zone, you just take a risk to reward of 1, 2, 3 and let it run. That is profitable strategy, although you have a lot of stop outs. And you need to scan the markets 24/7 because you have a lot of trades, obviously. But that way, if you want to trade a business zone like this, you just qualify it as a strong business zone, and then you say, okay, we have the open was above yesterday's value area. So the open was, sorry, the open was above yesterday's value area, and then I think the settings are wrong. The settings of the profile is wrong. So we'll exclude this. Let me remove the settings over here. So those are our business zones of yesterday. As you can see here, we've drawn them, we've seen them, we have the open above, and then we just go for a pullback. And if we just want to trade via limit, we would have a lot of trades. So we would just set a limit as soon as there is the open, which is here. So there is the open. And as soon as there is the open, this is our area of support. Then we would just, this is a very, very aggressive one because the business zone is very small. But then you would just take 3, get a stop, and So we never closed below, so we had the first stop out, but we just wicked inside and then we would just re-enter. And the way we tested it on the ES, but it's I think half a year or a year ago, you re-enter once. So you re-enter once every business zone. That's the thing we tested through, I think, 350 or 400 trades. And that way you would have one stop out. We tested it on a 30-minute time frame. You re-enter and then you get a 1 to 3 risk reward. But as I said, if you just want to have a rule-based strategy, what we don't suggest, but if you just want to test the concepts like this and you say you only have a business zone, you can test it and you can make a strategy out of this, as I said, in the ES, but also in bonds it's working because they're highly liquid. In assets like the Nasdaq, this is going to work way less because you have a lot of spikes, and that way you get spiked out very often, and then the trade continues. And if you limit yourself to two re-entries, because otherwise, for us, it was no option to have like maybe 16, 17, 20 stop loss in a row. And if you traded on the Nasdaq, you would or need to accept that. So that way we tested or very fast realized if we want to add a strategy to the portfolio like this, that is only rule-based without discretion, because there is no discretion in it. You have business zones, you open above, you go long. If we close inside, we go short. But that's the way we tested it. That's the way it's running. And in the strategy, we did not differentiate if it's a strong business zone. We just took any business zone.
Can I ask you a question on this matter, Jonathan?
Sure.
Can you go to the 5-minute charts in the same setup that the student was asking for?
Yes.
So once we define that's the business zone where we're trading from, and Barry specifically asked, or in the screenshot he sent, I think the question he was trying to understand is how can I just put a pending order here? And as you explained, you explained it that there's the chance of putting it twice. But also, would it be like my question at this point would be, isn't it still valid if I take this P shape, expect it to be break-in and trade the breakout or the test of the breakout or the break-in in the following one? Because if I see any directional day in the S&P, I very often see that they create P shapes all over the place. They re-enter them and then they continue going higher. Like a directional day in an index is often very directional and it's often made with P shapes. So P shapes, I don't think the focus should necessarily be how do I put a pending order here, but also how do I, potentially keep trading, depending, of course, if you're because here you would be a reversal trader following the concept of the avatars. Here you would be a reversal trader, more so of a reversal trader than a continuation trader or breakout trader every time a new P shape is formed. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes totally sense. So the best way is always to wait for confirmation. And yes, on trend days you have a lot of P shapes. And there also was the question, when a P shape is formed, as soon as you have two lower closes and you have a close above. So let's say we have because the way I understood it, the question is as soon as we have the open, we can put a limit above. If we just want to trade it without a setup, without footprint, without order book, without P shapes, without B shapes, without anything, just put a limit, get stopped out because this wick's going through, and then re-enter it because it's our second entry, and then we would have a take profit. In this case, if we spend 30 minutes inside here and we have a close inside and we build balance, then we do the same thing with the value area and trading to the other side. So in this case, to this side. We can go back later. For example, in here, we would it's overnight, so it's no example. Maybe in the backtesting session we will have some examples for that. But in this case, the things that make most sense is, as you said, to wait for P shapes. So we have an impulse, then we have one lower close, we have another lower close, and as soon as we close above here, so this wick is doing it, although it's kind of the same level, it's maybe one or two ticks above, to re-enter and make the first retest on here, so on the high of the P shape, and then enter and put the stop loss. I know the rule set is below the breakout candle, and then let it run to the upside. As I've written a couple of times, I don't prefer that way because I like higher hit rate and less stop loss. But if you make a couple of re-entries, you will accomplish profits like that, but you will have, and I think also some students already shared it, you will have more stop outs. Also makes sense because your stop loss is smaller, but that way you would combine it with the setup and then you just scale in with the piece when you expect the trending day. And in this case, we have an expectation of a trending day because we're opening above yesterday's value area and we are in a general uptrend. So
will you be able to share the TradingView template, or have you already done it?
I haven't done it. I also don't know how to share it, but I
Okay.
can share the TradingView template. Yeah.
Yes, yes, we will make sure. I know how to do it after we can do it together.
Okay.
The explicit settings for different cash
We
session.
will, as we said, we will also share the one for Sierra chart, but I still need to translate. At least we will or provide one Word document where the times is setting and how to import the file and how to set the times for the individual assets.
Yes.
So I'm searching for strong highs and lows, weak highs and lows at the moment, but I reviewed until 504, but I don't find it. I don't remember exactly what I said in each session, but it should be in the market profile. But to summarize it very shortly, this is a weak high. We have a couple of TPOs. In the profile, we have a couple of TPOs, so you can see 1, 2, 3 TPOs over here. So this is a weak high. So the likelihood of this getting taken out, that the markets will go and visit above here, is higher than if we have a strong high or a strong low. In this case, we also have a weak low because we have two TPOs here. Where do we have a strong high? This in case is a strong high because we have more than 3 TPOs. One TPO is one block, one letter, one time price opportunity. And we have a strong low below here. I think that's the fastest explanation there is, but there is, I think, a longer one in the course. I don't know exactly in which section, but in the market profile section.
Explicit settings for cash session. We'll send it.
Yes,
Yes.
I still need to translate it, and then we will share it.
Everybody could open it local. I don't know what's Andreas meaning with that question. Please
I don't
repeat
know.
it and reframe it. We already answered Eduardo, Barry, templates. Yes, there's an image from Julio. We can go through that.
So
So
there's a picture,
let me
and that one's loading. The first one is
I can
still
show it.
cancelled.
I can share it
Yeah,
with you.
I can share it. The second one loaded, just the first one is not loading. So
Ah, okay.
I think it's more easy. So I didn't understand how to choose the business areas if there are perhaps overlapping areas, as in this case. So this is the cash profile of, yes. What is your time zone? So 20 seconds. Now it's in the afternoon. Yeah. So this is the
Yeah.
cash session of yesterday. So 15:30 to 10 p.m. So then you have your business zone. Let me try to draw in here directly. Draw. So can we just use it to fill? So, but then you create a business zone like here. In this case, this business zone is from the day before. So until this area, so this business zone is from the day before, and for this day that is finished here, so because here's the 22nd, the day is finished here, there is no overlapping business zone. So this business zone is already traded through, as you can see. And of course, there can still be a retest to the business zone today, but there is an over there's just too many informations if you extend all the naked business zones to the right. That's why the rule for me is I will let them saved in the chart as long as it's in the same contract, as soon as there's a rollover, I will delete them. And in this case, so for the day today, the relevant business zones are the one from here of the previous profile. So those are the relevant business zones. And although they overlap, kind of the significance of the business zone that is created on the 20th reduces or has no relevance anymore on the trading day of the 22nd today. Hope that was understandable. For the weekly profiles, though, aren't only for cash sessions, but the whole day, if I'm not mistaken. So the weekly profiles are 24-hour profiles because in relation, the overnight session makes no relevance. And a lot of platforms in Sierra Chart, I think you can set it that also a weekly profile only has the cash sessions, but there is no big effort in the tests we made if we exclude or include the cash session, and that's why for the weekly and monthly and also everything above daily, we implement the Asian session. 10 a.m. New York time. So NASDAQ NTS trending up. How show approach entering? Wait for retest for previous value area or VWAP. I don't know why so many people, or not so many people, but a couple of people set stop loss below VWAP and have a VWAP in the chart. Serge, I think, uses it for context. Maybe we can do a live session with him about that. I'm not using it and so I cannot give qualified or value providing answers to that. But if it's trending up and you have a trending up day like we have currently, or in general trending up structure, you just check for retests on the highs. So when you have a retest on the business zone, you check for longs, and otherwise you can check for P structures and scale in with P structures. For example, here we have a first impulse, but it is in the morning. I wouldn't suggest trading there. Maybe you can check in the DAX in the morning. But so you have one lower close, you have another lower close, and that way you have your first P shape. And that way we can trade the retest of that P shape. Here we have another one, but I don't like it because it's not beautiful because there's a gap in it because you can realize it on the candle closures. So, and then we have the first two lower closes. We have kind of two upper closes, but as I said, when there is not a really beautiful structure like here where it's just going sideways, just extend it where you have the next two clear uptrends, that's P structure. And we are currently starting or trying to break out. For me, I don't like scaling in that hard or aggressive trending markets. When a market is trending that aggressive, I have problems in scaling in here. I would wait for a reversal setup. And no, yes, rule-based, we have the highest close over here. So we have a close above, so we can retest. But as we check for beautiful setups and a closure of one tick above, and also there's not a lot of volume, this is not a beautiful setup because as you can see, this is kind of the breakout structure and the volume is kind of low. And as also in the Discord mentioned, or in the course mentioned, we want to have speed, action, and an interest to trade on the extreme or a breakout. So I would not trade this or prefer this breakout. Still, it can continue, but we want the best, or I prefer to trade good setups, and that way I won't trade it. But as a preferred version is a retest of the business zone and then checking for a P or B shape, like I just did. And otherwise just wait or no trading day, or we get a reversal setup over here and then trade back to the business zone. But that's also kind of counter trend and aggressive. So weekly profiles are 24 hours. Yes, that's right. Business zones are always on the edges of value area. Yes, they are on the edges of value areas. I prefer to extend them so they get wider. but sometimes you need to draw the business zones with a value area high or low, and then inside the value area. Was it today to see some backtesting? Yes, we will do backtesting. One format will be that Andrea will backtest and I will guide him through, and otherwise we can also take students that will backtest and guide through, because I think that is the best way to learn. Because that
Yes.
way also mistakes are made, and the best thing is to realize a mistake, realize why it is a mistake, and then correct it.
Yes, we will. I think we will get through some question and then start backtesting.
Yeah. So about P-shapes, I've just left a question on Discord. Possible to review it? Yes. Discord P-shapes. Oh yeah, it was a beautiful picture. I saw it before the live session here started. Or was it in questions? Yeah. So save image. Just open it quickly. Share screen. So, can you see the picture?
Yes.
So, this is the first indication. When this candle closes, it's the first indication of B shape in this case, because we have our first support line. As soon as we have a candle closure below, and then a retest, we can continue aggressive scaling in long, short in this case. So this is the most aggressive, like it happens in here. It is the most aggressive way. We have a close. It is better if we take out even this high. So if we have a close above this high, and then we have a retest. But that is like the first setup. And if we then close back in, we have a new support line. So this is then our new support line, and we have two higher closes. And then we need to wait for two lower closes until we have our upper resistance line, and then we have our B shape. Did that answer the question? We continue to use the old lower border. No, we use the new one.
And for the upper border?
And for the upper border, we need two lower closes. So
Okay,
we need a high close, like this one. This is the highest close in this case, and then we need two lower closes afterwards, below this close.
let's say we don't see this candle, for example. Would you consider this as the upper border?
This as the upper border?
Yeah.
No, because we have two lower closes below this upper border, but the two lower closes are below the lowest low after the two higher closes have been made.
Yeah.
Understandable?
Yeah.
So we need two upper closes and we need two lower closes.
Awesome.
Let me open the chat again. There it is. So 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 it's not that question, it's another one. It's the following one. Okay, let me check the following one. I have a doubt about the P-shape setup. So let me share my desktop, my Discord. So you have doubt about the P-shape setup. Here we got a stop loss. So we have an impulse. We have kind of, no, it's an upper close. It's ugly. We have two lower closes, one higher, lower, lower. So we have a resistance line, we have a support line. Trade it to the upside, we trade it to the downside, we trade it back in. Then you entered most likely in the retest over here, 1430. Put the stop loss below the low and try to trade to the other side or continue with the trend. And that's perfect. It's everything is fine and correct. No problem with that. We should move the range in that way. So first range, then we break in, fake break in, we continue to the downside. So then you see this as, I don't understand the logic behind this line and also not this line because we still have the P shape. We try to break in, we break out, and as soon as we break below, you can see my mouse, right?
Yes.
As soon as we break below this low, then we have the other setup where we continue until the start of the impulse. It's a reversal setup. So you don't check for a new range. We have a P shape. We did not break in. We did not continue the trend. Either we continue, we scale in as you tried on the break in, or we scale in on the breakout, or we break out to the upside, break back in, we scale in on the break in, or we go below this low, which is the first breakout to the downside of the range. When we break this low, we can enter a short trade to the start of the impulse wherever it was. Is it understandable? There's a third picture. You use 30 minutes? No, I use all different time frames. Most of the times 5 minutes, also 30 minutes, yes. I rarely use 1 minute because there are too many gaps and I don't like the low time frames. Too stressful. So we have a P setup. We broke down, we broke back in, we broke back out. Below here, we should, or the setup would be to check for a short trade with the take profits of the impulse start. So that way it is not the way we explain the rules, but still a very good example to go through. So still a very nice example. And the first rule was perfect. The second here, that's not the way we approach it. So this is no valid trade.
I have a question on
Yes.
that image. Would this become the next P?
Yes.
So then this could be the first trade setup when we wait for a retest, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we have two lower closes. So this is the highest close.
Yeah.
Can I also draw in nice.
Yes, there is.
Perfect.
Eh,
So we have the highest close over here. So this is our first resistance line. Then we have two lower closes. So first lower close, second lower close compared to this line. And then we check for where is the lowest close, which is this one. So we have our support line. That way we have a breakout and we can continue.
mhm.
This is the breakout setup number one. Otherwise, we can break in
Yes.
and trade to the short side.
And I would say that, like, for example, the logic behind all of this is like we are creating value here on this area. So this would be basically our let's call it value area for simplicity. We try to go out, and yes, the rule says that here's we're supposed to break out. So that's the setup. But what we can see is that they tried to break below. They found some level of value. We should see the volume here, I would guess, and see how participated this move was. But then we gradually trade back in, and we're back at the range where we was before, and we create more range inside of here. So aside from what the setup is saying, you can also, kind of think of it as price get back to the comfort zone and now is officially breaking out from both. So it's like an extra confirmation. This is how I would think of it. But yeah, this is just on a this is speculation, let's say.
So, taking profit targets versus taking partials. With that 1 to 3 trade, did backtesting include any comparison to taking some off F3R and then letting them run? Yes, we tested all of this. So we tested 1 to 2, 1 to 3, taking partials. So the way you get an idea or try to test an edge is you have different parameters. You should not have too many because otherwise it's gonna get too complicated to backtest it and then backtest it and then see what works best.
Do you have any tips for backtesting, or do you have any data from the backtest that we can share?
Just I can check if we still have the edgewonk data, but I think we should have because we did it with edgewonk. Because you of course you can do all in Excel, and but I think it's more easy if you just use a journaling software. We used edgewonk, but there are a lot of them out there. I don't think that there's one best.
Is it been mostly done manually?
Yeah, all manually.
Okay.
Because otherwise you don't get the feeling. When you make it manually and you save the screenshots, and that way you get a feeling for the market. If you do it manually, you just over optimize because then you have different parameters, and then you just with a quant back test, you just adapt the parameters. So you have parameter risk to reward 1 to 3, 1 to 2, and then you over optimize.
Yeah.
Because if you have two EMAs and you have any market, maybe that's important because a lot of people don't understand it, and very often I also get requests. The last one was 2 days ago of funds that want us to invest in, and they all have an equity line that goes like this. And when I see an equity line that goes like this, I know either it's a crazy fund and they have service for 2 million month rent a month next to the stock to the exchange, or otherwise it's an over optimized backtest. Because if you have different parameters, you just switch them. So maybe it's not a risk to reward of 1 to 2 or 1 to 3, maybe it's 1.15 because it's the perfect setting for the time horizon you're looking at. And if you do that manually, most people just over optimize. And if you want to get a feeling for the edge for the market, you need to do it manually and you need to invest those hours because that way you really get a feeling for it and also trust in the edge and not just buy
So you mean
an over optimized.
if you do it automatically, you would get over optimized?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to do it manually to get the fittings because you said
Yeah.
manual twice. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. And that's a very big problem in general on the internet because you see a lot of back tests and they look so beautiful, but when there is a real market test, it's a whole different story.
Yeah. Then we have Constantine. Yeah, the picture from
It's
Constantine
another picture that's not loading, so I think you need to share again. I don't know why.
right now.
Some of them are loading and some not. And to give an example, I use the value of the previous session's volume profile as a first target. So yes, to achieve a risk-reward ratio of 1 to 2, I placed the limit order slightly higher, hoping that the price would rise a bit before down movement develops. If the risk-reward ratio on the first potential target is less than 2, does it make sense to place a limit order at a more favorable price? If you don't reach a risk-reward, that way you just adapt to the market. The market is not giving you a setup, and you say, okay, how can I change and bend my rules to get a setup because I want to trade? And that's not good. At least that's the feeling that I get from the way you ask a question. If you don't get a 1 to 2 risk to reward with the perfect setup and with the setup that the rules are, so where's the retest? You have a business zone or you have a low volume area, and you don't get a risk to reward setup of 1 to 2, then you don't have a setup and then you don't trade. So it does not make sense to just place a limit order at a more favorable price.
Yeah. I have a question, Professor. So, probably there was like two higher closes here, two lower closes here. Isn't this a break-in setup? Because I think he just traded the breakout, but there's also a break-in here, right?
Yeah, he is. So we have two higher. No, let me draw. I'm checking for the pen. There it is. So for me, it looks like, so we have one lower close somewhere down here.
Yeah.
Then we have a higher close. Now we have a lower close. So we have a first resistance line. Okay, it looks like it's here. Let me remove that. And then we have one lower close, another lower close. We have a first resistance line over here. We have a breakout. We have a break back in. That is the first setup. And for me, it looks like he's trading that one, no? Here's the entry.
I think
So he traded to break in. And then
so.
you can
Well,
scale.
because he said I'm placing the entry higher to get a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio. So I guess probably he was meaning to put it lower. So that's why I
You
thought
can
he was
you can
holding the
scale
breakout.
into the position at the breakout. So in this case, you can have a breakout, you have your breakout candle, and this is the scaling after the, so we have a breakout, we have a break back in. So
Yes.
this is the break in entry. And then of course you can extend your position on the breakout.
Mhm.
So either when this candle closes, when wick, and then continue to the downside. And put the stop loss below or behind the breakout candle. So what exactly is the question? So he's targeting, so he's trading the acceptance of most likely this balance area. So we
Yeah.
trade to the POC. Yes, we traded to the POC. We have a first reaction. We trade to the upside. We have the combination of a business zone, a B shape, and targeting the other side. So that's perfect. Nothing to criticize on that.
Awesome.
So I think there are too many questions to continue with backtesting. Maybe we should do the backtesting in the next live session because I think there are still a
Yeah.
lot of questions.
Yes, yes, yes.
Does it make sense to build business zones based on the profile of a day without the main trading session? For example, on the day of Trump's inauguration, stock trading during the main session
You know,
did
take
not
place.
take place. Volume on the S and Nasdaq futures were low, or major participants did not trade that day. The day's profile includes data from a few hours reflecting just a part of the standard trading day. I don't like to trade on days like this, and when you have that low volume, I would not suggest to trade because the likelihood of a small news, a tweet of Trump, Elon Musk, whatever, it creates
And
very big market movements. Also, for risk adjustments, a lot of the market makers don't trade or reduce the volume that day.
yeah,
So,
I think the question of Constantine is, do you draw business zones from those sessions?
no, when they have very low volume, you can draw them to exercise, but not to use them as high quality business zones.
Awesome.
From 1 to 5, which are most important features of the market profile you use for charting business zones? Value area high, low, naked POC, single print, weak, high, lows. I cannot value. How should I quantify or put them in different places? I use all of them. I would not like to miss one of them. If I would need to miss some, I would miss weak highs and lows or single prints. But it's very difficult to scale them because high is as important as low. If you trade indices, of course, the value area high is more important because you will have more pullbacks on the value area high. But if you trade oil markets or commodity markets, you have ranging markets. They're both value area high and low are exact the same importance. Same as for POC. It's also important. The same as for single prints. So don't miss anything. Why should you choose? Take all of them.
I think the other questions are a bit redundant. So if you agree, let's just do one trade on backtesting at least, where we'll build a context quickly. If you want, guys, you can tell me a date and time, and I will set the replay for that date and time. Or if you want, we can just go quickly, and I don't know, we can go with the beginning of the month or beginning of last month, for example. So whether you guys give me a date in the next 15 seconds or I'll choose a date myself. And we'll try to have a trade on the ES. Let me share the screen with you. You should be able to see the screen. So this is Deep Charts. It's another platform, but the template is pretty much the same. And I'm going to open the replay.
Disconnected.
And replay tick data. And we can go back. Which date can we use? I'm going random, guys. I'm going fully random.
I'm trying to answer the open questions, the previous open questions in the chat.
Okay. In the meanwhile, we're downloading some data.
Somebody wrote 17th. So
17th of
5 days ago.
Of January?
What market are we taking? Yes?
Yes, yeah, S&P 500. 17th of January. Well, we have the 13th of November here anyways, so I'm gonna erase all the drawings and start again. Okay. So, first things first. You can guide me, Jonathan, on our checklist. We will first see, yeah. So first thing I can notice is that on the last sessions, the volume profiles are going lower and lower.
Yes.
And we have, sorry, let me just move ourselves to the beginning of the cash session so it's way easier. Which is 5:30 Istanbul time. Okay. And if I play, this is the opening. So we're opening inside of
First check the maybe two profiles of the previous day. So what are the general structural profiles of the 2 days before? In general, they are going down.
Yeah, if I have to watch at the cash session, we have value area high, POC, value area low, high, POC, and low. So we're descending, and I have a strong high here. We have more than 3 TPOs in the initial balance, and we don't have necessarily a strong low here, I think.
We have, but
yes, we have. We have four TPOs on the bottom.
And the red thing is the initial balance, right?
Come again?
The red, this
yes.
red here is the initial balance.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and we're opening inside of the previous value area. I would draw the business zone such as this way, for example.
Yeah.
And let me just, something like this. I'm gonna extend them so we can have them extend. So here we have the 1 minute chart, here we have the 5 minute chart. I think the 5 minutes will be enough. So the first thing, since we're opening here and we're trending lower, would be to look for a short here, right? A short setup from the top.
So we're opening in the middle of nowhere. So in the completely fair value of yesterday.
Yeah.
The close of yesterday has been outside. Where is the close?
This is the close of yesterday's. Sorry.
No.
The close of yesterday is inside the business zone.
Yeah. Okay.
We're here. Yeah, so that's not particularly good if we want to short.
At first, I mean, in general, we are in a downtrend, but it's not that aggressive. We have a strong low, so potential of aggressive buyer stepping in on the lower side. Also on the upper side, I think the preferred version in this case is we closed in value, we open in value. It's a balanced day. The first indication is we plan with balance.
We plan with balance. Okay, so we,
Although, as you can see in the morning, there was some kind of news,
yeah,
which is a very strong push to the upside.
yeah,
So we have some indication for short, we have some indication for long. For now, we just trade bonds and we are in indices. We have a general bias in indices of long because they're rising more than they're falling and they're not running sideways. So I
yeah.
would suggest balance and long.
Okay. So for now, we wait and see where we're heading.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's play. Now this is going in real market timing. So guys, I'm gonna put it a bit faster. I think this is fast enough. Okay, so we just tapped into this area. But for now, can I take off the TPO for now? I don't think we need it anymore. Once we've established the bias, I think it's just occupying screen space.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Okay. So we've broken below, let's see, and we've broken back in. So we did exactly the thing you were saying. Aggressive buyers coming in at the lows, and we couldn't really close below the value area. Let's see. I mean, very, very shy close here.
Can you open a 5 minute and a 30-minute chart?
You want a 30-minute here? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's better. One minute is very a lot of entries, a lot of stop outs, and then you need to let the ones that don't get stop out run very long. It's not
Yeah,
it's not the things I prefer. It works, but I don't like it.
awesome. So I'm taking off the footprint from here because we're not going to need it. Sorry, footprint is here. Okay, it's much cleaner now. I'm also going to hide it here for now because we're not really going into the order flow stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in this case, I think now we can check on a lower time frame, maybe 5 minutes for a P setup or a long setup. Because we're breaking to the downside, but we have strong rejection. We're now trading more or less around the business zone.
Yeah.
So we don't have a kind of valid setup, but the basis idea is that we have balance today. We are on the lower side of the range. So we now check for the long side.
Okay.
But in this case, maybe on the 1 minute, yeah. Maybe now you can go to the 1 minute because we've established a structure on the 5 minute.
Yeah.
And now, because otherwise the likelihood of us catching a day trade will be low.
Yeah.
And now the goal is to trade to the other side of the range.
Let me go back to the 1 minute.
Deep chart looks cool. When deep chart's going live.
Soon, guys, soon. So if I watch the 1 minute and 5 minutes, we've created some balance on the business zones, and now we've broken above that balance. So I think let's play a little bit more, maybe a bit slower. You can feel free to guide me on
Stop. So at first we established kind of a P shape,
Yeah,
but it's not really beautiful because it's overlapping with the business zone, but it's a first indication that we don't have volume on the extremes, as you can see down here. So we have some volume in the spike, but there's not a lot of volume establishing. We still establish the volume between the business zones.
yeah,
So another indication that there's no acceptance below the previous anticipated fair value. So we can now check for long setups. We had the first breakout and we had the first test, but as I said, I don't like this P shape. So first way would be just enter limit on here, and I would put the stop loss below here. But that's too late, we missed it. So we can trade the break back in. So we can now check for a trade either enter it here and put the stop loss below here, because we had a P shape, we broke out to the downside, we break back in.
Stop here, for example, or here.
Oh, I like the more passive stop below the business zone.
Okay. And for the target, we're going to have something like this.
Yeah, it's the other side.
See if we get the fill.
And if we break to the upside, so if we break to the upside, we try to get in on the retest of the upside.
Should we wait for a close on the upside?
No, this one is the preferred version that we have now. But when we break out, we take out this high, we try to get in here at the retest and put the stop loss
Okay.
below. It's just if we missed the entry. This now is the preferred entry, but possible that we don't get there anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this could be an entry now.
Yeah.
So let's buy this market. And let's put the stop loss. I'm taking this off now, for now, the limit.
There's a question, why not execute purely on 5 minutes? Because we are at the beginning of the session and we want to have a day trade balance. So this is the basic idea. When you look for a day trade and balance, it's more difficult to have real life examples with 5 minutes. That's why we switched to the 1 minute.
Yeah. Okay, so we have another breakout. Okay, we're not
Yeah,
scaling.
structure's still valid. And can you stop
Yes.
and make it a little bigger? So we are forming.
Yeah, we're forming another.
Exactly. We are extending the balances and creating now a balance on the upside. So we're extending the P shape.
Okay.
Yes, 5 minute is the more stable way. I'm just trying to also go through. So
Yeah.
just like one.
Okay, we're breaking below. Let's see if we break back in. We break back in. But our entry is there, so I wouldn't, add anything now. We're still break even.
Yeah.
Could be creating another balance here.
We are accepting, but we still have difficulties. We
Yeah.
create volume up there. Seems like there's still a lot of interest to trade, but it is decreasing the higher we get, and I don't like that we have the same high down over there.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Let it run. Yeah.
That's good.
Now I would trail the stop loss to there because we're close to the high, and if we have a couple of contracts very often and we start to form a balance, I used to
Yeah.
scale out of the position pre-take profit. But as we have only one contract, put it one tick lower. So one tick before the business zone, not exactly at the business zone.
So this is the next balance we're building.
Yeah.
Okay, we're break even. No,
We're
sorry.
out.
Trailed. Yeah.
Trade stop loss, we're out.
Yeah. Okay. And eventually we got there. Okay. Okay, I think that was a very interesting test. Next session, we're going to continue with this. And let us know in the Discord if you like this format as well. And we can keep going with this and going through live setups with you guys live. And maybe at some point, very good format, more backtests like this. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Who took the professional won't be able to take the next. No, you have to have the full version, but eventually we can build the offer for if you have the premium offer, we might give you the chance to get a cool offer to also join the next month. Okay. Wouldn't 5 minutes be more stable? I think we already answered, Ferdy.
Yes. So if
Okay.
we're open to have a trade for a couple of days, we would just stay with 5 minutes, but the likelihood of getting a beautiful P shape in intraday one session is way lower.
Ferdy asked, should one backtest also with the analysis of the weekly profile structure and trend, or only like Andreas doing with the previous session? So I think if they should consider the weekly structure or like the weekly profile and blah blah blah, like weekly profile structure, I think he's talking about mainly the overall trend in the weekly when they start back testing, or they could start practicing simply with business zones and setups.
I prefer to take the weekly into account as well. So let me share the screen quickly. Wait 1 second. So when we
Because he's asking more information on that. He said, I know Tom in the session always looked at formation, tails, ledges, rising value area, low value high POC, but never marked out the previous week business zones for intraday trading. Is that unnecessary information for y'all?
No, it's not unnecessary. I know Tom does not like it because he does not like to have a cluster chart with too many information inside when I check for it. The way I do it, for example, now we have the previous week. Try to mark out the business zone. In this case, this one it is. I have my template. It's a 1 because it's a weekly zone. I extend it until the end of the week. So until Friday. Copy paste. Create the lower business zone. That again is kind of difficult. And that way I have, in the 30-minute chart, I have which is kind of a darker gray or less transparent gray. I have the weekly zone and I have the daily zone, and I like it to have it combined that way. But it's just personal preference. Tom does not like it. Tom likes to enter a trade on 5-minute, 1-minute chart and then just check where is the next area of interest. So if you would check for a short trade, he would have no business zone to the low, but maybe his target would be the naked POC of previous week. It's just personal preference. I like it that way. I also had a time where I marked those zones green or red. So as long as I've been above the zones, I marked them green. When I was below them, I marked them red. But that was sometimes kind of confusing. But I tested it out. But now I'm not doing it that way anymore.
Awesome. Deep chart's not available yet. I asked a lot about the visible range volume profile, which I think is the composite volume profile in the Discord. In which part of the analysis is this integrated and how often? How do you use the big pictures with mountain and valleys for your trading? Is it just a directional bias or therefore TPs? I think take profits. Please clarify.
It is for entries, exits, and directional bias. So let me share again. For example, when you look at oil oil is not like indices only going up. Most of the time it's going sideways because oil markets don't go through the roof and they're less correlated with money printing, so they don't only go up. When I want to have a swing trade, because we thought about in the investment office I'm working in, we've, for example, thought about buying oil or increasing our position in commodities in general. So we checked for oil, we checked for gold. And when we then, for example, go on gold and say, okay, we want to establish a long position on gold, we go on the composite and cannot play back. Perfect. And we check for low volume areas where we have areas of interest to buy. For example, when you look at oil and we say, okay, we in general want to establish a long position. So this is the basic idea. Our interest is to increase positions in commodities. So that's the basic idea, wherever the idea comes from. Fundamental analyst in this case. And then we check, okay, of course, we can now go back in oil, for example, and look at this whole range. Then we say, okay, maybe we have a time horizon of something between 3 weeks to maybe 3 to 6 months. Why should I look at the past 2 years for that time horizon? It's too long. And our idea is that we have a fundamental idea that commodities will still have relevance because of inflation, of money printing, global policies, and so on. So I don't look at all of this range, and there is no fixed rule what time frame you look at. But then when you go back, I just look at this is the previous uptrend, and that's the most relevant thing for me. So I just look at the previous uptrend, and if I want to scale into a position, I just check where's the low volume area. And the low volume area starts over here. So this is kind of the whole low volume area, and that's why we're starting to scale in here. And where do we put our stop loss? Where we have the biggest acceptance, which was down there, where the impulse or uptrend started.
Okay.
But when we go to the swing trading part, where we prepare examples, create ideas, and analyze them, there will be, I think, more details about this. But in the
Awesome.
day trading perspective, you mainly focus on the profile structures and don't use the composite for it.
Awesome. Okay. Prefer entering at low volume areas. That's
Yes.
yeah. Okay. And again, for the long positions, we're going to add some stuff soon, Lee. So we will be able to answer your question. Question: I don't end the masterclass, but I don't be able to review the live session. Can I unlock the recording for a student like me? I'm not quite sure of what you mean, but these sessions that we're doing in these 2 weeks, we will give them. You have the recordings for sure. Guys, that's all for today. We've done abundantly an hour and 20 minutes of live sessions. Hope you appreciate the new format.
Brian's also kind of that yet.
Awesome. And let us know. Keep us giving feedback in the Discord. We highly appreciate it. And we'll keep working to improve the value as every single live session moves on. Have a great day, everyone. And we'll see you next week. Actually, we'll see you tomorrow with Fabio, which is going to hold an extra live session for you on how he's adapted the TTT concepts on also some trades from his championships, which is going to be really cool. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you, Jonathan, and see you next week.
You're very welcome.